Turn up the dive, feel the vibe, get ready to ignite. Untold stories in the airways, flying through the night. Experience voices, tales so bold. Streaming live, the truth unfolds. Untold Radio Network, where secrets come alive. New episodes daily, the mysteries thrive. Great guests, super chat, it's so I remember I. Share and subscribe, join the side where truth can't hide. Aliens in the attic, UFOs in the sky. Cryptids lurking, oh my, oh my. Ghosts in the hallway, whispering your name. The paranormal, the unexplained. Become a VIP, get the inside scoop. Unlock the mysteries, be part of the group. Live streaming stories, they're talking to you. Super chats buzzing, join the crew. Untold Radio Network, where secrets come alive. New episodes daily, the mysteries thrive. Great guests, super chat, it's a wild member ride. Share and subscribe, join the side where truth can hide. So if you've got the guts and you want to explore, tune into the Untold, it's what you're looking for. From aliens to ghosts and all that's unseen. Untold Radio Network, where the world's mysteries convene.
The paranormal, UFOs, monsters, mysteries. You're listening to Talking Weird. And now, from a cabin deep in the Northwoods, your host, Dr. Dean Bertram.
Well, greetings, all my fellow weirdos and weirdettes. Welcome to Talking Weird on the Untold Radio Network. I'm your host, Dean Bertram, and as always, I'm delighted that you're joining me, whether it's live tonight as we go out on YouTube and X and Facebook, or whether you're watching one of those streams after where they're archived, or listening to the podcast the following day or in the following weeks or in the following years. Whenever you are with me, I'm grateful to have you, particularly because I'm freezing off my little hiney tonight in the North Woods. I've got my furnace blazing. My poor chickens are almost freezing to death out there. I've had to close them in their coop and try to insulate it a little bit for them. It is brutal up here at this time of the year. So I hope wherever you are staying warm. Hopefully our conversation will warm you up a little bit tonight as well, because it's going to be a fun one. I'm super excited about tonight's guest. He has a multifaceted career in the entertainment and art worlds. Trained in New York City under the esteemed William Alderson in the Meisner technique. I've had a number of actor friends over the years who've sworn by the strength of the Meisner technique in bringing about honest and truthful performances. And his journey spans stage, film, and visual arts. He visits tonight with Talking Weird. He's going to be talking about his brand new feature film about Bigfoot and the people who are obsessed with the mystery, in which he starred and which he also directed. It's called The Sasqualogist. We're going to be screening it at Midwest Weird Fest, which runs March 6 to 9 in Micon Downtown Cinemas in Eau Claire, Wisconsin, along with a bunch of other paranormal films, oddball films, horror films, science fiction films. It's a wonderful long weekend, 4 days this year. We're going from the Thursday to the Sunday. And if you can get along, you really should. I'm going to try to twist tonight's guest to come to present his film and to Q&A it. At any rate, I'm absolutely delighted to welcome to Talking Weird, Joseph Granda. Joseph.
Hey, how are you? That's
man, I'm glad to have you here.
Intro. I'm on the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson, not these other knuckleheads that are out there now.
Yeah, right. I agree. Those were the happy days. Happy days. Man, it's so good to actually talk to you. I only got to talk to you briefly backstage, but I got to see your film a number of months ago initially, fell in love with it, knew it was perfect for Midwest Weird Fest. I see it's already doing really well on the festival circuit and bringing all kinds of rave reviews. I've had a number of people saying it's the greatest Bigfoot movie ever made. I think we'll probably get around to talking a little bit more about your career and other things as we go into the interview. But maybe you could start out by telling us what made you decide to make a Bigfoot film.
Well, what got me to make the story about this Bigfoot film, the Sasqualogist, is I don't want to give it away because it's in the movie, but it has a lot to do with not if it is or what it is, but what motivates somebody to go out and look for this thing, because here's my take on it. Whether it's an ape or an alien, there has to be something in the personality, the person, or the person's background or upbringing that moves them to want to go out and look for a hairy wild man. And on top of that, too, my fascination with it and this story is really about why we go looking for it. Is it because we admire something that's completely detached from technology and modern society and seems to be able to live as a legend and also be anonymous, which would be pretty great? Because I tell you what, I wouldn't want to be famous for anything in the world right now. I mean, I know that I'm in the crosshairs of that sometimes, but I do my best to sort of like drop my work and then kind of disappear.
I think that's one of the great strengths to me about the film, as somebody who's always been as interested, if not more interested, in the people who believe these things and the people who search for these mysteries, whether it's ufology, which is more as I was talking to you briefly before the show, my academic background is looking at people interested in UFOs, or whether it's people who are interested in cryptids or people who are interested in ghosts or whatever it is. It's so hard to pin down the reality of the phenomenon or the nature of the phenomenon. And there's all these different points, different people arguing what these various phenomena are. But what we can look at, and which to me is far more interesting, is the people who spend their lives fascinated with this various anomalous things and dedicate their lives to it. And you do that so well in the Sasqualogist. And it seems to me to be perhaps one of the most honest portrayals I've ever seen of people who are, and it's also good-natured. It's funny, but it's good-natured funny. As far as such an honest portrayal of people who are interested in these things, I'm guessing you spent quite a bit of time, with people in the community or interacting with people in the community.
Yeah, I did. And I mean, I had my own sort of mild fascination. Everybody owns a Bigfoot t-shirt or sticker at some point in their life. It's almost part of being an American. So a couple things. I went out with some guys, looking for Sasquatch in an area of here in Colorado where there are a lot of sightings, and just talk to them. And I actually based the character off of somebody very specific that I spent some time with. And the earnestness and honesty of them, I don't think, people say true believer, and I think that sometimes that comes off as a smear. But these guys were genuinely interested in finding what this was. And and people who poo-poo it or say this is ridiculous, my answer to them is that there are worse things that grown men could be doing in today's age than hiking through the woods looking for Sasquatch. And so, but I really got to know the community, especially because not only did I write it, I directed, I play the lead in this, is that I really went in deep to the research of the Bigfoot community. And it was a surprise really to find out that there's a real Bigfoot community. In fact, I'm going to meet a huge Bigfoot community this week. I'm showing the film at Squatch Fest in Washington on Friday.
Fantastic.
Which is one of the biggest Sasquatch festivals in the country. But so I found out that there was these two different camps that, and that the Apers and the Woos, those who believe it's an ape and the others believe it's some sort of alien or something that can take physical form. And so I wanted to present both of those stories in an honest, lighthearted way without making fun of them, because everybody was really sincere. So and I feel like I split it pretty good with the two characters, and they sort of each have their own experience justifying what they believe, and then ultimately, again, it's got kind of a surprise ending, so I don't want to give it away.
Yeah, I'm going to be very careful not to throw out any spoilers. I watched it again today because I hadn't seen it for a couple of months when I decided I was programming. I thought I'd better just refresh. It's so good. It's just a marvelous film. And at the end of the show, I'll give you an opportunity to mention any other screenings you have coming up as well, because I'd encourage people to go out there and see it now with live audiences on the festival circuit before I'm sure eventually it will be available on streaming and physical media and other things. But it'd be a heck of a fun audience to see with other people. I would think this you mightn't have an answer for this, but it's something I was conscious of when I was watching the movie, and I know our audience would probably want to know that answer. Did you lean in either camp to the end? Like after you did all your research and made the movie, did you personally, not what the movie suggests, because I think the movie's pretty balanced, but did you personally end up thinking, I tend to drift into the Aper camp, or I tend to drift into the Woo camp?
I'd have to say that I'm more into the Woo camp. And let me just say this, that's probably because most of my world world is based on my Christian faith. And so my feeling is that it's not something that was on the ark. I think that it has something to do more with the spiritual realm. And if you know about things in the spiritual realm, oftentimes those things, whether they be harmless or benevolent, can take on human form. So that I leaned towards that way. And also, I did a documentary a couple of years ago about a guy named Wes Germer, who has a Sasquatch podcast, where we retold his story. And, if you want, at some point, I can tell you the night that, I had the complete, in the middle of Washington's, the triangle where all this happens at 3 a.m, standing outside of our RV. I had the classic experience of what everybody talks about, being in the presence of Bigfoot, of something, the horrible smell, the weird sounds. So much so that, to be quite frank with you, when we came out we were hearing sounds, there was being knocks on the RV, and we went out and we're filming. And when you hear about people that say that they shit their pants, so that's the feeling that I had. We felt like I was in the presence of something that wanted me to I wanted to shit. It's the only time in my life that I was standing conscious and terrified, because there was some sort of energy, and that was something else that made me move towards some sort of a spirit or something like that. That film is out. You can rent that. It's called Sasquatch and the Missing Man, and you can rent that at merkelfilms.com, which is
nice.
Yeah.
I wish I'd watched that before.
I guess it came out about a year ago. We interviewed a bunch of people, and we interviewed guys that didn't want to be on camera because they're surgeons. But here's the interesting thing. All the people that we interviewed and that I've talked to, and that had what I feel to be genuine, truthful experiences, are people who are not out looking for Bigfoot. You know what I mean? And so the theory that I heard from some of these guys who are very serious is that you go to the area where there have been sightings or they're known, you sit, you let yourself be known, and then you just wait. Because it's opposite. It's more like being found than searching, is where they had the most success.
Well, it looks like some of the audience are going to be at the screening you were mentioning before. It looks like Flat Rockland's going to be there. We have another question. Is it playing in Denver anywhere?
It will. Not yet, but I'm near Denver. I live near Denver, so it will be playing in April at Bigfoot Days in Estes Park. We're going to have a big premiere there.
Well, so people in Denver can check it out there.
Go to the website. They can send me an email, and I'll make sure that they get notices.
Yeah, I'll make sure at the end I give you a chance to throw any URLs out. I'll also have them in the show notes for people who are listening and just want to click through and look at the show notes now or watching. They can go to the show notes and they should be able to find
the trailer's there, and the trailer's on my website and all that.
Speaking of the trailer, would you like us to play the trailer now? I do have it here to give people a sense.
That would be great. Yeah, absolutely.
A sense of the film. Let's bring that up for folks to see, because it's so great. I'll play that right now, and we'll just sit in the background and we'll come back and chat about it after we see it.
All right, good morning, everybody. Can you all hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Good. Because when squatching, your ears are more important than your eyes.
What exactly are we looking for?
That. But bigger.
You're the Bigfoot guy.
Something like that.
Wow.
What are you looking at?
That kid.
There it was. Wild man. Who?
It's black bear.
What? No, it's not. Smell it.
I'm not gonna smell it.
Smell it. Why do you hate people?
I don't hate people. I just feel better when they're not around.
If it's just a warm body you want, maybe you should screw that monkey of yours.
It's not a monkey. It's an ape.
I'm on time.
Early is on time. On time is late, and late is never. Is that what you're wearing?
Yeah.
We're not partners. You're my Sherpa.
People should get to know their Sherpas.
That's no Squatch. Squatch smells like ass.
I know what ass smells like.
It's a figure of speech. He's the sound patty.
Sounds like a conspiracy theory.
Yep. That's him.
Bigfoot!
I wish I had a trail cam.
Wouldn't get a good photo anyways.
Why's that?
Bigfoot is blurry.
You're an idiot.
Supernatural forces are keeping you from knowing the truth!
You're not going away, are you?
Nope.
You ever think about leaving this place?
I used to think that if you stayed in one place long enough, everything you wanted would eventually come to you. That thing is going to drive you mad.
It's missing 411.
It was a portal to another realm.
No. There's got to be some other explanation.
Has Bigfoot ever killed anyone?
Unfortunately, no.
He's trying to kill us.
Shh!
Would you keep it down?
Well, imagine the data that would bring. Okay, let's go.
You gotta go to school. You gotta go to school and find out for yourself.
This way.
So great. That trailer is so, I mean, I'm just laughing at it while I'm watching it. It's so got so many funny moments there. It's just amazing.
Yeah, we worked really hard on that trailer.
Well, it plays so well, as the film plays well. And we should just mention that, especially for people who've been to Midwest Weird Fest previously, they might remember the documentary Bigfoot and Marty by wonderful filmmaker as well as incredibly talented musician Ronnie Ferguson, and that song playing in the background during the clip, and there's other music in the film as well, is by his band Streaking in Tongues, right?
We've got four or five songs in the film from Streaking in Tongues, and I've been listening to those guys even before this, and I just as I was editing this movie, well, I didn't edit, working with the editor, I just contacted them. I said, listen, this is not a big budget movie. Here's one thing. Any artist that I work with, I pay them something. I don't make anybody work for free because I don't work for free. And so we came to an agreement, and I mean, his music is really a character in the film. And there's a moment in the movie where my character, Bootser, reads a poem to the kid, and that poem is written by Martin Ackett, who that documentary that Streaking in Tongues is about.
Yeah, we had both Ronnie and Marty at Midwest Weird Fest when I believe we did the world premiere about 2 or 3 years ago of Bigfoot and Marty. So it was so great to have have them reappear, even if it's just the spoken poem and the music within another film at the
I should
festival.
contact him, see if he'll come down and play some live music at a gig somewhere during the festival.
Well, you know what? We have our official bar of the festival is the Mousetrap Tavern right next door to the Micon Downtown Cinema, and they do live music. I bet you if we moved on that soon, I wouldn't be at all surprised if we could arrange something in that bar, which would be amazing.
I'll contact him this week.
Yeah, no, you've got to do it. So when you were, I know what it's like trying to put a feature film together. Was it when you wanted to do this, when you wanted to do a Bigfoot movie? I guess you'd already been in the realm of Bigfoot documentaries before, as you mentioned. Was it difficult or easier to get the funding when you were moving from documentary to a feature narrative about a Bigfoot? Or
well, it's funny how it came about. This is my second feature film. So I've been producing movies for Merkle Media, and I produced a film for them called Shape of Shadows, which is about an area that overlooks Skinwalker Ranch, where there's this other area there that has a bunch of strength. So we filmed that. It was a bunch of UFO stuff that we caught on there. And then I was getting ready to produce Sasquatch and the Missing Man, and the same person who was our executive producer sort of shot off about a project that he invested in and how much it was. And I said, if I had that much money, I could do a whole feature. And he said, if you bring me a script that I like that's in this genre, I'll give you the money to do it. I said, really? Because oddly enough, because I was going to make this movie come hell or high water. I mean, I would just go out and do what I've done before in the sense of raising money. And he's like, I love this. Let's do it. And it was easier than I've ever had it. And then so once I completely, shot it and got an initial edit of it for him to see, he said, if I gave you more money, can you make it even better? I said, listen, in the movie business, more money can always make it better. And so that's where we were able to add greater sound and better tones to music and some effects and whatnot. But the core of the movie, as I started it, here was my idea. So as an actor, I come from acting in movies in the 1990s, where there was a real sense of independent sort of guerrilla filmmaking with Richard Linklater and Robert Rodriguez and people like that. And so when I got my cast and crew together, I said, my goal is for this movie to feel like it's from the 1990s, from like 95 or 96. And from my feedback, that's really what I've pulled off. Because the other thing I said is, listen, if we can't use any special effects that you wouldn't be able to have had in the 1990s. And that's exactly what we did, which also made the movie really fun because you had to run around with a flashlight and then overexpose it later on and stuff. So yeah, it was the funnest thing I've ever done and the scariest thing at the same time.
It's funny you say that, because when I first watched it, there's that wonderful scene with you kind of dancing on the patio of your bungalow with the broom and things, and it reminded me of something out of a Hal Hartley independent movie from circa 1993 or something. I just loved it so much.
Yeah. Hal Hartley. Yeah.
Which was great. So I said I'd rewind a little bit. We've been talking mainly about Bigfoot. Well, no doubt we'll come back to it as well. But you've had a pretty fascinating career. I mean, you had a background in acting originally, and then you got into actual film production and producing, and you've worked with all kinds of people, which you might want to talk about some of your experiences. But originally, what made you move into that kind of creative space? What was the drive to become an actor and to continue in making films? You're obviously a creative, but what was when you were younger, what first pushed you into that kind of space?
Yeah, it's funny. So I'll tell you a two-part answer to that. I had graduated from high school and I was going to go into fine arts because I still paint and do these other stuff, and I couldn't get into this specific class that I had to get to fulfill my curriculum. And so the lady says, well, why don't you take one of these classes? And I thought, well, I'll take the acting class. And so I go to this acting class, and I do the class, I try out for the play, I get the lead in the play. Okay, I do this, I do it one more play, and it just hit me like a ton of bricks that this is what I was supposed to do. And so the second semester, I came back and I told the acting teacher that I was leaving. I was going to go move to New York to become an actor. And everybody thought I was just insane, because if you're going to be an actor, in the late 80s, early 90s, you go to New York if you're serious about your craft. And so I ended up studying the Meisner technique, which is basically teaches you to live truthfully under imaginary circumstances and listen and answer. And so I'll never forget this day that he was my teacher, William Alderson, was going around the room and he was asking people, why do you want to be an actor? And it would be like, well, because I just want to express bullshit. Next person, why do you want to be an actor? I really feel like I have a story that bullshit. And he goes to me, he goes, why do you want to be an actor? Because I hate my parents. And he goes, close. So I had a tumultuous childhood, which makes for great theatrical performance. I'll spare you the details, but that's kind of how I felt. I was 21 years old. And so what I learned from that was that it was a cathartic form of I guess of exposing your pain. I mean, when you see the movie, there are things that I say in there and stories that are told that are true from my life, because as a writer, I can only write about what I know.
Yeah, there is. I won't go into the details, but it did, because I don't want to throw out any spoilers, but there is, well, this isn't a spoiler. There's a big theme in there about the relationship between sons and fathers and other parental figures. And both of the characters that kind of end up looking for Sasquatch together both had backgrounds which seem to indicate that they had unhappy childhood. So I won't say, was your childhood exactly like your characters, but I could certainly see it was coming from a personal place, along with those very moments of, I suppose, heartfelt moments which feel really genuine and real. There's also an awful lot of that high strangeness has a different connotation when we're talking about paranormal things, but a strangeness in media that you don't see in a lot of films. And it's sadly ironic that we just lost David Lynch, because there's elements of weird type characters in your film that one could imagine in a Lynch's film. So was David Lynch an impact on you? Is this something you might want to talk a little bit about, given what's happened recently with Lynch?
Well, let me just tell you. So his daughter, Jennifer Lynch, her and I were roommates for a while
Get out
in Hollywood. Yeah, Jennifer and I were roommates in the Hollywood Hills when I first moved out there. When she had made a movie at that time called Boxing Helena, and so I met her at Sundance because I had started in a film called Amongst Friends, and she was there with Boxing Helena, and we became fast friends. And I said, I'm thinking I'm getting calls to come out to LA now from New York. And she's like, I got a big house, you can rent a room. And so it was kind of easy. Like a great person. And her dad, even before that, was an influence of mine. And I try to do some kind of a homage to Lynch by having one really weird moment that works, but doesn't seem to fit. There's a ventriloquist in my movie. And in my first film that I made, I was hired to write and direct a very specific family-friendly, faith-based movie. And there's a one scene in this movie. It's called The Healing Garden. You can watch it for free on Amazon. There's one scene in this movie that just doesn't fit at all. It's so weird. It's a very short scene, but it's a complete homage to David Lynch. And I'll tell you a funny story. At his house one time, he said, because he paints too, and he says, come here, I want to show you something. So we go into the backyard, and there's this man that's made of clay, and it's got a big head, and it's hollowed out, and there was some sort of residue in it. And he goes, you see that stuff inside there? I go, yeah. He goes, it's cheese. I go, okay. Come on, let me show you. And so he takes me over to this photo book. And what he had done is he set this man up with a big hollow head and he stuffed it with cheese. And then he took a time-lapse camera that would take pictures as thousands of ants crawled up it, ate the inside of the head out, and then crawled and went away. I'm like, that's so Lynchian.
Oh my god! I mean, I'm just amazed that that you had that closer contact with him, and it's. I think so many people were so sad in this week. I've never seen my Facebook feed as full with people remorseful and over somebody's passing as over Lynch's passing. It goes to show the impact that he had on people, and clearly, you knowing him, he had a much larger impact on you, I imagine.
Yeah, I mean, I only met him that one time. He was living in a Frank Lloyd Wright at the house at the time. I did ask him, how do you get that haircut? And he goes, I just asked for the 1950s.
It's something I actually only the other day, after Lynch passed, I bought, because I haven't watched it for years and I don't own a lot of the things I used to own in Australia. So I bought the complete Twin Peaks and the Fire Walk with Me and all of it, like the new series, the old series, everything. And I introduced my mother and my girlfriend to it for the first time on the weekend. And something I think we were all talking about later was, we didn't watch it. We probably watched the pilot, maybe 3 episodes or something in a row. But this kind of mixture of this terrible dark sensibility of how the world can be so dark, but also it kind of it's juxtaposed with this wonderful 50s-esque vision of the United States of America with this wholesome family life. And I suppose that was a constant throughout Lynch's work, really.
Yeah. And I was in Butte, Montana at the festival out there when he passed, and I posted it on my Facebook page. I went and had a cherry pie and coffee at Perkins. So just to speak of him, if you want to read about David Lynch, this book, Room to Dream, here's what's great. And only Lynch could come up with this. He writes, first off, he told everybody, he wrote it with Christine McKenna. He told everybody, when she comes to you to interview you, tell the truth. And so in this biography of him, he tells the story of a certain movie and its production and everything. And then she goes and interviews the people and they tell their experience unfiltered. It's really a fascinating way of doing an autobiography.
Wow, I haven't read it. I need to now. That might be my next Amazon purchase. I probably won't have time to read it till after the festival, but it sounds great.
Yeah, so it's good. Yeah, I'm a big fan of his.
So you've mentioned a few times now how your Christian faith has informed you in various creative ways, and obviously in life. I'm a Christian as well, and so I'm always interested to talk to people about how their faith impacts them. And maybe this is a good way to segue back into Bigfoot and back into the paranormal. I do try to still take off any hats of bias when I look at paranormal phenomenon, because I think there's a real danger of us taking our own beliefs to the power. I mean, particularly when people experience it, but even when they analyze it, I think there's a real danger of us positioning any strange stories we hear within the context of whatever our belief system is. And that could be, we might believe in extraterrestrial life, or we might believe there's ape men running around the north woods of America, or we might believe that there are ghosts roaming the back hallways of the family estate. And so when we have strange experience, we tend to slot them in with those things. So I do try to still keep a distance and keep sometimes my Christian faith a distance from the way I try to approach these things. But I do think that the two, to a degree, go hand in hand, because like you said, I think my Christianity makes me expect for there to be a non-physical world that interacts with ours. And I think then when you hear about somebody having a type of strange anomalous experience, it doesn't just come out of the blue and not have any context. So
Right.
it's a little bit of a catch-22, I suppose, the way I approach it. But you mentioned before that when you were filming a Sasquatch documentary, had an experience which was particularly frightening. Have you had other experiences in your life which you can kind of slot into the paranormal, or that you've understood spiritually within the context of your faith? Or
Yeah, you know, so I've been a person of faith for about 14 years. Now, when I lived in Hollywood, there's some weird shit goes on in Hollywood, and I've seen it firsthand. I was dating this girl who wanted me to go with her to a medium, a channeler. And she was so hot, I would have gone on the Titanic with her, right? And so she says to me, if there's anybody in the spirit world, write a note to them and keep it out for the week before and let them know where you're going to be. I said, okay. So my old man's deceased at this time. He's been dead a long time. So I leave this note out, yada, yada. We go to this thing. It was in the valley. It was in, I think somewhere around Burbank, maybe. And it was just a donation. So you go in and there was a couple famous people there, a bunch of chairs and everything. And this guy, and then we're sitting up front, and this guy comes out and he's talking about ectoplasm, and he's talking about how it uses to make voice boxes. And he showed these pictures of this white something coming out of people's nose or mouth or ears, and it would make a voice box so it could talk to people, right? I mean, this is demon shit, right? And so I'm sitting there, and he starts channeling, and he's picking people out. You have a mother in spirit, you have a, and she had a dog, and it's spot on it. And I'm thinking that this is all being done for me, to punk me, right? And I was probably 25 years old, I'm 58 now. So as I'm sitting there watching this, it's pretty fascinating. And there's a really weird vibe in the room. And there's a guy sitting over here that keeps looking at me. Never seen this guy in my life. He keeps looking at me like uncomfortable. I'm a little uncomfortable. There's a lot of reasons that another man might look at you in Hollywood. And so the thing ends, and I'm kind of weirded out, and he comes right over to me and he says, do you have a father in spirit? I said, yeah. He said, I'm a channeler also, and there was too many spirits trying to get in with, I don't know, with Dan, whatever his name was. And so he came to me. He says, does your father have a South American or a Latin accent? My father was from Cuba. My father looked like Charles Bronson and sounded like Al Pacino in Scarface. So, wow. Yeah. So he had a really thick, like, okay, so that's my son over there. You got to talk to him. And so I said, oh, okay, yeah. He said, he's wanted me to tell you that you shouldn't be smoking and running. And so this model that I was dating was a smoker. So I would smoke with her, but I would still run 5 miles every other day, right? I'd never met this guy in my life. Okay. And then he said, because you're smoking, and I smoked a bit when I was in New York. You're smoking, you should go and get yourself checked out. Anyways, long story, really short. Go to the doctor. I said, I feel good, but can I get some lung x-rays? So turns out there was a spot on my lung like that. And I quit smoking, because your lungs can heal themselves.
Wow.
So that always stuck with me. I was a very devout Buddhist for a long time. That got me into meditation, but I always felt at the end of my Buddhist searching, I always ended up feeling like a 15th century Roman eunuch that I was getting walked on. And that just didn't fit for me. I eventually found Christ here at a local Protestant church. It's a big church. But let me just be honest with you. I'm a Catholic. And I'm a Catholic because my Protestant faith and pastor didn't have any answers for me with any of the spiritual realm. I'm not blaming them, but when I talk to my priest, they will tell you they are at this moment in a spiritual battle. There is a full embrace in my Catholic faith that seeks, that knows that it's there, that knows that evil is real, that knows that your average person can be influenced by evil. You know, you never see a Protestant do an exorcism because all they could do really is throw Bibles at the demon. But, and I'm not disparaging it, that's how I found Christ, was through the Protestant faith. And there's a lot of other reasons why I was led. Listen, I go first, and I go wherever God tells me to go, and that's where I was ultimately led, was to the church. But it was these experiences and writing these things and making these documentaries and having these experiences that when I had these conversations with the people of the church, that gave me more of a better understanding that I am and can am around supernatural forces constantly. Everybody is.
Yeah, I think that the modern church, and in many ways you're right, the modern Protestant church has failed its flock, or its parishioners, in steering away from a deeper spiritual message. When I say that, I mean a message about a real spiritual world, for fear that somehow they'll sound kooky, which is ridiculous when you think about it, because if you accept the key tenet of Christianity, that God came as a man, as Christ, and then died on the cross, and then was, resurrected, and then, he died for your sins, and it's such a supernatural tale anyway, it seems silly to go, well, we're not going to talk about the demons and the spiritual world, we're just going to focus on the feel-good message every Sunday, so people feel like they're recharged and can face the week again and feel good. I think it's a real failing. That said, in defense of modern evangelicism and modern Protestant denominations, there are some which I think are more interested in spiritual warfare.
Oh,
and
absolutely. There just weren't any here.
No, I listen. I see it that I see it rarely anywhere. But I don't know if you've read him, but I think you'd really find his books worthwhile. He passed a year or two ago now, and that's Dr. Michael Heiser.
All of them. Read all of them.
I think that. Well, that's I thought you'd find them worthwhile.
That was my entry point to look for answers. I went and saw him speak too somewhere. I can't remember where it was. Oh, he was brilliant. I mean, he was an evangelical Protestant who really tried to say, listen, you guys, we need to deal with this because it's dealing with you. And I'm not somebody to knock denominations, because we're all people of faith or brothers in Christ, no matter,
Agreed.
No matter what not. But I just go where God tells me. I mean, briefly, I left the movie business and I moved out here. I still did some screenwriting when I got called, and I had another little business and whatnot. And then I found Christ, got baptized, and I said, I love donuts, God. If you want me to make donuts for Jesus here in Colorado, I'll do it. I'll do whatever you want. And you know what happened? Everything that started coming back my way was to go back into the movie business. And so that's why even in the Sasqualogist, there's an homage to God in there. It's a soft little drop of a mustard seed message. That's it. That's all you need to do.
And did you, if you don't mind me asking, and you don't have to answer if you don't want to, did you leave Hollywood because you felt that it was I guess antithetical to your values, or was that the main reason you pulled out? Or
yeah, Hollywood is the only place where someone can break your heart, and then you have to drive past a billboard with their face on it for the next 3 months. And it's not a pleasant experience. Yeah, what happened to me was, I'll tell you what happened. I got offered a job as an actor. And so I went into my agent and I said, and I didn't have to read the script. I was getting offered this part. And she said, it's to play the campus rapist in a true story movie. And my first thought was like, I'm not so sure I want to do that. And she said, it'll be good for your career. And then I had this moment of clarity. I thought, well, what is my career that reenacting raping women is good for? What am I in here? And then I said, what's it pay? I mean, I didn't do it because I didn't feel right. And so that was the first linchpin of like, what am I doing here? And then I had seen friends that, Philip Seymour Hoffman was a good friend of mine. He was a roommate of mine too, briefly.
Wow.
And, he's dead. Full disclosure, because he's dead. He and I went through rehab together. I've been sober for 30 years.
Oh gosh.
Well,
good on you.
And so I just saw people falling. He got rich, he got famous, and I didn't have a lot of contact with him because there's this thing that happens. You get moved into this different world. But after he won his Oscar, I called him and I left a message and I said, listen, I don't care how many statues you win. You'll always be the redheaded fat guy sitting on the couch, wiping buffalo wing sauce on your T-shirt during the Super Bowl. One day he was doing, and just a jolly, happy guy that left behind a family but talking about the spiritual realm, there's a lot of evil stuff out there, and there's a lot of amazing people too.
Yeah, I can't imagine that everybody out there is. I certainly have friends who are in LA and who work in the industry, and they're great. They're great people. When you go back to Sasqualogist again and back to the Bigfoot world, when you've been showing the film at places which are, I suppose, Bigfoot friendly, how are you finding your faith comes over there? Do you find that it's welcome, or do you find that it's your kind of perspective does it come up even? I mean, I don't know.
My faith?
Yeah, and how's it received when we're talking to people with who
I don't if somebody asks, I tell them. It's a small little it's a couple little moments in the movie of transferring someone of faith to somebody who doesn't, but maybe should look into it, which is all I would ask anybody to do. Just look into it. That's all. And I've shown it to the first group I showed it to was just Squatchers. And I said to the guy who was running it, it was the editor, very talented guy named Joe Stauffer, who did some of the music and he edited it. I said, if we get 2 laughs and maybe a partial tear, we're a winner. And so it went well. And then I showed it to an audience with a cast and crew of people between 7 and 70. And all of these people, except for my crew, because they learned it from me, didn't know anything about Sasquatch. And they're like, I had no idea that it was that vast and that many different, concepts and where it's originated from. Because I kind of cover the history of it, in the movie. And then, the film festivals, they've not been like yours. I'm really looking forward to yours because it's sort of in that wheelhouse. The other ones have been really mainstream moviegoers, and it's gone really well. It's not a horror movie at all.
No, I think our audience, no, it's far from a horror movie. But I mean, Midwest Weird Fest is a very broad tent of the weird. So we do everything from, offbeat comedies to paranormal documentaries to horror to sci-fi to anything you could vaguely think of as being weird. I think our audience are really going to enjoy it. I've already had people who are regular attendees who've been coming for several years by season passes, messaging me saying how forward they're looking to the Sasqualogist. So I think it's going.
Well, hopefully we'll get a good slot, because the one in Butte was very disappointing.
Oh no, you'll get to be totally honest, I always prioritize, and now I'm twisting your arm. I always prioritize for filmmakers who attend. I think other festivals do. I finally have I haven't had a film in the festival circuit for years, but I had a short on recently, and I noticed that most festivals also, not most, a lot of festivals do that prioritization for attending filmmakers. But
I plan on coming. I just hope that it's like on a big screen and we can fill an audience. And
yeah, we don't.
I'll even do the dance afterwards. Somebody bring me a broom. I'll dance on stage. Yeah,
I'm going to make you. That's going to happen in the Q&A. Don't think I'm joking.
I'll absolutely do it.
No, we screen. I mean, I've been running film festivals now for almost 2 decades, and through many years of experience, I've learned to only do screenings in real cinemas. Like in my early days, I was still in cinemas, but I do side screenings in bars and other places, but the reality is, to do justice to the film screening at your festival, you have to put them on a cinema screen. You'll love the Mic on Downtown. Every every filmmaker who comes adores it. It's why we're always one of the top rated festivals on Film Freeway, which for those who don't know is the main festival submission platform. I think there's 12,000 festivals or more on it. And we're always in the top 100. We're normally in the top 50 of film festivals reviewed by filmmakers. So you're going to love the festival.
Yeah, no, I'm coming. Count me in.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah,
man.
I'll dance. And I mean, I've sang on Broadway. If you want, I can carry a tune. I can also serve drinks because I had plenty of time as a bartender in my life.
I'm not going to put you to work. You'll enjoy yourself. That's for sure. It's a very filmmaker friendly festival.
I mean,
and I encourage
the people in Butte. They were lovely. They were lovely people. But my film showed at the Elks Lodge on a fold out screen at 6 o'clock on Monday, and I was just, it's show business, but it was.
Well, no, one of the reasons in Sydney, I used to run festivals that would run for literally 11 days. So then you would have Monday screenings, Tuesday screenings. Midwest Weird Fest runs Thursday night is opening night, and then it runs through Sunday. So almost every screening, people are off work. You know what I mean? I'm not competing with, right. I'm not on weeknights really, except the Thursday opening night.
Do you have a big closing event or anything? Or
we always have a party. Yeah, it's awesome. It's so much fun. You'll have a blast if you come. You'll really enjoy it. And so I would encourage anybody else. Wait, what's that? Didn't hear.
My edibles. I'm from Colorado.
Oh my gosh, we can't even talk about that on the Untold Radio Network. I'm gonna have to go and edit that out.
No, I mean my vitamins, Dean.
You can absolutely have your vitamins. You can absolutely have your vitamins, but it's an awful lot of fun. You're gonna have a heck of a fun time. And there's some other. You were in the first wave, so you got announced in the first 7 features that we announced. But there's other films within your space I think you're really going to enjoy as well, which might.
Yeah, I love meeting filmmakers and watching movies. Absolutely.
Yeah, there's a bunch of filmmakers there. There always are, and so I'd encourage anybody who's listening as well to try to get along to the screening. So. We talked about one of your paranormal experiences. What we haven't talked about, and I don't want to give any spoilers for the movie, but there's a hint in the movie. What's your take on UFO stuff? Like, what's your takeaway at the moment, and all the congressional hearings and the Tic Tac videos and all this stuff that's kind of come out in the last several years and has, re-energized everybody's focus on the UFO topic?
Well, I'll tell you, one of the other movies that I produced at Merkle Media when I was there, when I was head of film there, is called The Shape of Shadows. And that's also at merklefilms.com, where you can rent it, where ultimately you're going to be able to rent The Sasqualogist once it has a theatrical run. We're going to pick some cities and show it. So I get there at this bluff that overlooks, like here's Skinwalker Ranch, right? And we're at this place called Space Wolf Research, where all these weird paranormal things happen. So I get there because I'm the producer. I get there the day before the rest of the crew, but the director's with me and a camera, and it's 110 degrees on a Sunday at 4 o'clock, and we're scouting the area, and we look across this canyon, and there's something white that's up on the bluff, and we can't really see it. I try to look through my phone, and I say, put the big lens on and see what that is. And what it was a big light pole with solar panels that would light up at night. It was a motion light, right? So he looks through the camera. It's in the movie. We shot it. This thing comes down out of the sky, silent, shoot like this, shoots across, and then straight back up in the air. And I turned to him. I said, "Please tell me that you got that you were running the camera." And he goes, "Why would I look through the camera if I wasn't running it?" I was like, yes. And so we put it through some software and looked at it. And as we were able to blow it up, it had this metallic, shiny thing to it. And so I'm trying to disprove it. So I get a hold of, I call like the University of Utah, maybe. And I get a hold of an ornithologist, a bird expert. And I tell him, here's where we're at. What kind of birds are there? And so when I send him the thing, he goes, "That's way too big to be any bird that goes that fast." Okay. So we're there to hang out with the Ute tribe, the native Indians of that area. And they come back that night and we're hanging out. We got a campfire and we're looking out over this vista. And this thing comes back. It comes down and this time it's lit up. It comes down out of the sky, shoots straight up, straight across, and straight up back up into the sky. And everybody's freaking out. And I look to the chief, and he goes like this. It's the sky people. They know you're here. They're performing for you.
Wow.
So I wouldn't be surprised if it's some sort of spirit or angels or demons. But when they took us to their petroglyphs, the big carvings up on the wall, you would think that people who are going to climb up on a wall and carve, they're going to carve their traditions, their harvest, their weddings. Six-fingered giants with spaceships are carved on the rocks there. It was mind-boggling. But here's why they think all this is happening. Here's the one thing the chief told us. Don't dig in the ground. Even if you take a shit, don't dig in the ground. And so then he shows us over here, fracking.
Gosh.
The whole valley there, right? But here's the irony. He believes that these weird things are happening because of the fracking, but it's also taking his community out of poverty because the guys are getting paid 90 grand a year to just drive trucks of sand back and forth and all the other stuff. So he was like, we've traded off poverty for all this sort of spiritual awakening. And that's what he believes all that Skinwalker Ranch stuff is.
Well, I remember, I haven't watched all the Skinwalker Ranch TV series. I think it's still ongoing, but I remember some of the early stuff they were talking about digging in the ground seemed to upset the phenomenon and, cause accidents for people and various other things. I've got to catch up on your other films because they all sound amazing. What's next? What do you have coming up for us, Joseph?
Well, I'm finishing up writing my next film, and it's called Social Media Bites. And I'm going to do for werewolves what I did for Bigfoot in the same style, except the kid who gets bit in my movie doesn't turn from the moon. He turns from doom scrolling social media and trying to get likes. And so he ultimately live streams his attacks. And the more likes he gets, the more he's able to turn.
Oh, wow.
But I'm going to do it in a way that's never been done before without, if you're going to make a werewolf, you better have a bunch of money to do a werewolf. And no one's done it like American Werewolf in London since, as far as I'm concerned.
So Howling's great as well. The original Howling. That's also a great movie.
That is a good one. Yeah.
So then you will be making a horror movie, it sounds like.
Yeah, but it's gonna still be in the tone. I think it's gonna have some funny, lighthearted. You know what I would say? More Shaun of the Dead.
That's a great movie. So horror comedy.
Yeah, horror comedy. Yeah, and you know what?
Fantastic.
Too, I don't think horror audiences listen. If people want to go and watch dismemberment porn, that's fine. But here's my theory on that, and the same reason why. Well, I don't want to give it away in the Sasqualogist. I don't think that you always need to show what's going on. Remember Reservoir Dogs? When he's going to cut his ear off, he cuts away. We have so much gore in our brains already. I think, and this is something that I would never say in the presence of a cinematographer. We are so inundated constantly every day by video. I think that sound is more important in the movie. And I think you can create much more scarier moments with sound than you can with visuals.
You know what? I agree with you. I think that an audience can even forgive poor video. They can't forgive poor sound, though. Like if you can't hear what's going on and if you're not impacted by the sound of a movie, I think it loses you even before poor visuals do. So I totally agree with you.
Yeah.
So we've had a very active chat. People were fascinated with your trailer. A lot of people seemed interested in the upcoming The Sasqualogist. A lot of people had seen your other movies as well by the look of things. But so
Cool.
Maybe throw out though, and again I'll put any links you mention in the show notes if they're not in there already. Where can people see your films? Where should they go? And where can they see your upcoming The Sasqualogist as well as see your other movies online?
Well, if they just want to see the movies that I've either written, directed, or been in, they can go to josephgranda.com. And on that landing page, you'll see a trailer for the Sasqualogist and also a link to the Sasqualogist official website, and you can send an email through there to get at the Sasqualogist.com updates. So most of all my work that I've done is there. If you want to go and see Sasquatch and the Missing Man, or The Shape of Shadows, there's a Dogman movie in there that I didn't have anything to do with. You can go to merkelfilms.com and rent them there. And ultimately later this year, unless Warner Brothers buys my film and puts it in 2,000 theaters, that would
As
be
they
great.
should.
It'll debut at Merkel Films also, and then ultimately it'll go to Film Hub and out into the marketplace. I'm hoping for the best, though. I'm hoping for a movie deal and a distribution deal that pays me first.
You deserve it. That Dogman film, I think I know the one you mentioned. It's like a narrative kind of horror-ish movie about the Dogman, right? About, I think, a husband and his wife, and they have these encounters. And
it's called Expedition Dogman, and it's kind of a documentary.
Oh no, that's a different one. Then I have to watch. There's another film I have to go to Merkel Films and watch then.
Yeah, well, there's a woman that we interview in The Shape of Shadows that talks about a skinwalker sort of dog walking down the street that's floating down the street. It's just demons, in my opinion. I'm like, yeah, those are demons.
I mean, my opinion is I think almost all of the various anomalous phenomena are actually probably offshoots of one strange phenomenon. I'm very much in the John Keel camp in that capacity, that all of these things are somehow projections from something else, and they present themselves to us the way we expect to see them. And certainly demons is as good an explanation as any other.
Yeah, I think the spiritual realm, the same way that when we say that we're created in God's image, it's him mapping himself onto us. And I think that that's the same thing as the negative spiritual world is mapping itself onto existing forms here.
That's a fascinating way of looking at it. Well, what a great joy it was talking to you tonight, Joseph. Thank you so much for coming on Talking Weird.
Great meeting you too. I look forward to meeting you and dancing in your theater.
I'm going to have a broom on stage in the corner, and I'll get a volunteer or somebody to run it out.
A song, and then we'll stand on stage and we'll look for Bigfoot.
Man, I was going to bring up that hand motion as well that your character does, but maybe
So I'll tell you one quick funny story.
Sure, please do.
My favorite movie ever is called Stalker by Andrei Tarkovsky. It was a 1978 film by a Russian filmmaker. And it's about 3 hours long. It's in Russian, and it's called slow cinema, because there's moments where he just lets the camera sit for like 10 minutes and the actors unfold. But what it's about is it's a supernatural movie. It's about this area called the zone, and the zone will fulfill your innermost desires, but you have to have a stalker take you there. But here's the rub: just because you think you know what your innermost desires are, it knows what they really are. And one of the ways that they get there is they take these big bolts and they tie a string to it and they throw it. And they have to throw it at these different angles. And that's exactly what I do in the Sasqualogist, except I do it with chicken wings. So that's where I got that from.
That's fantastic. Now I have to see the other film because I haven't seen it. People were referencing it though, so I must be.
If you went to film school, which I don't recommend, I didn't, but they would make you watch that movie.
I got various films thrown at me during my college years, but maybe I was away for that week. Now I have to go track it down though. Joseph, again, a great pleasure talking to you. Thanks so much for coming on Talking Weird.
I'll look forward to seeing you in March.
I can't wait. And until I talk to you either before then or then, and until I talk to everybody else out there, please keep it weird.
Keep it weird.